moving on to the feature function. So apparently we are talking about everything in terms of linear relationship. So there is x, and we want to multiply each of those observations with w vector, and that will give me my prediction. Or sometimes your data is showing kind of a non-linear relationship. For example, where this is your x and this is your y. Where linear regression, the assumption is where your data is showing some trend that is looking like a straight line. But you can imagine your data is indeed forming this kind of curvature. So it is drawing some curve like this. Well, in this case, linear regression, at best, it can do only something like this. And it will create some kind of a fixed amount of error. So in order to avoid this kind of a limitation, those people who are rooted on linear regression, they come up with a new idea where we may be able to change the feature from the beginning. So we introduce a feature function or basis function. So from the input space, we define some new function pi, and eventually we are going to provide this output of pi to my linear regression model. So the change is from wtx to wt pi x. So in terms of the parameter, so in terms of the output of pi function, where still the model is linear. So where the rest of the learning process and where everything is the same. Where only change is where we manipulated the data so that the output of pi represents some nonlinear space. So you can draw the concept of this linear regression with the extended feature in this way. So the original input coming here, and it gets into the feature function. So series of phi, and this phi will be the input of your linear regression model. So rest of the model is the same. So let's get more tangible. So here comes some example. Your original input is a single dimension, so you have only one column for input, and you somehow designed your feature function in this way. So pi1 is just input itself, pi2 is x1 square, pi3 x1 cubic. So if you play with this output of the feature function in terms of linear regression, where again you can easily form this linear regression model on top of the output of the feature function, and that defines this kind of linear regression model. So this is again linear in terms of W, but non-linear in terms of my input. And this is another example. So we'll say you define pi1, x1 itself, pi2, x1 scale. And this time input is 2 dimension, pi3, x2, pi4, x2 scale, and pi5, x1 multiplied by x2. So if you plug this into a linear regression model, where you can easily expand a simple model in terms of some combination of linear and scalar terms of your original input. And this particular instance of a feature function, it has a name, so this is second degree polynomial function. So when 2-dimensional input, you are defining x1, x1 scale, x2, x2 scale, and combination of x1 and x2. This is a second degree polynomial function. And not only the polynomial function, there is other options for the feature function. So other commonly used the option is Gaussian function or RBF function that looks like this, and sigmoidal function looks like this. So where if your data is representing some space that is better represented by one of these functions, well, these are the option. So idea of feature function is rather simple, and where you can apply some feature function, it works and you can use it. Otherwise, let's move on to other feature function, something like that. So this is another layer of option that you can play with.